Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I can see around 18 people only. Um, did you listen to the lectures that I posted yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now I have posted two lectures actually. One on, oh sorry, one second. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I posted two lectures. One is again one more case study using PCA, but that's not a theoretical case study. It's actually part of a TV series. I hope you find it interesting. And another is some mathematical details about factor analysis. So I forgot to mention while posting the lectures that please see this factor analysis lecture first, because today we'll be continuing with whatever we did there yesterday. PCA anyway we have finished discussion, so it's okay if you see it slightly later. But factor analysis thing, whatever I discussed in yesterday's lecture, I'll be continuing from that. So I hope you have seen at least, I mean, you have seen it so that you can understand today's things better. Okay. So by the way, any other doubt? Question bank we will discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday, right? So tomorrow we will discuss question bank 2. So try to solve question bank 2 before that so that we can discuss your doubts tomorrow. Did you have any other lecture going on just before this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I thought because people are joining late, so maybe they took time to end the other lecture and then join here. Okay, anyway. So I will now start today with the actual orthogonal factor model. Yesterday we simply saw in one particular scenario, in one particular special case, that is if my variance covariance matrix of the observed variables is non sorry, if it's singular and if its rank is k, then we saw how we can get k factors which would satisfy the given constraints. Okay, so today we will see how to operate in general case, because in almost 99.99% of the cases my sigma matrix is not going to be singular. It is going to have all the eigenvalues to be positive. So in such case, how to deal with diagonal, how to deal with dimension reduction, that we will see today. Okay, so let me first write what we did yesterday and then we will continue from that. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what we did yesterday was we took x minus mu and we expressed it as qf. These are vectors, q is a matrix. X minus mu is of order p cross 1, q is of order p cross k, and f is of order k cross 1. Correct? So this can work only if my eigenvalues starting from k plus 1, k plus 2 up to p, these are 0, where the ordering of the eigenvalues is in the decreasing order of their magnitude. Okay. So if I have arranged eigenvalues of sigma matrix, variance covariance matrix of X in decreasing order, and if k plus 1, k plus 2 up to pth eigenvalue are 0, then we could get something like this using what we know about PCA. Correct? But in general, we know this is not going to happen. We are going to have non-zero eigenvalues here. So what to do? So we will try to get an approximation. So we will allow something like an error term. So instead of just saying this is equal to QF, I would say this is equal to QF plus U, where this U is kind of like an error term. Okay. So this is like an error term which would help us in approximation. But in factor analysis terms, we won't call them errors. We will call these U as specific factors. Okay. We will discuss in a few minutes why they are called as specific factors. And these will be called as common factors. Okay. So U would also be called as factors, but they will be specific factors. And these are common factors. This would be called as a loading matrix. Okay, Q would be called as a loading matrix. X is your original observed variables, and mu is the mean of the observed variables. Okay, so I can also write this same thing as X as QF plus U plus mu. Basically, both are same things. I've just shifted mu. So this is known as orthogonal factor model. This thing, okay. What we did yesterday is not an orthogonal factor model. It is just some preliminaries, some preliminary mathematical thinking that goes into developing an orthogonal factor model. This particular thing here is an orthogonal factor model. Okay. So if there is a question in exam, state orthogonal factor model, you have to state this along with U, not this one. Okay. Am I making myself clear? I've seen people writing the first model, so I'm repeating it. Okay. So now there are certain assumptions involved in this model. So as I said, expectation of X is actually mu. Okay. So expectation of X is mu. Then variance of X we will denote by sigma. We don't have any constraint on this mu and sigma. Okay. We don't have any constraint on that. But now we have some constraints on mean and variance of the common factors and the specific factors. Okay. So F k cross 1 is a vector of specific factors where k is less than p, because one of the aims of factor analysis is also dimension reduction. So k must be less than p. In fact, k must be far less than p. We will see the reason for that also later. So f is a vector of specific factors, and we have these constraints on f. So expectation of f should be a zero vector. Okay, so these factors are centered, and variance of f should be an identity matrix of the order k cross k. Okay. So the specific, I'm sorry. Not specific factors, I'm sorry. You should have stopped me. F is a vector of common factors. Okay. F is a vector of common factors, right? I've written here common factors, and expectation of F is 0. That is, common factors are centered. And variance of F should be I, identity matrix. That is, the common factors are scaled and also they are uncorrelated with each other. Is it okay? Then U is a vector of specific factors. So we have some constraints on mean and variance of U also. So U is again P cross 1. So this is a vector of specific factors. Okay. And variance of U we denote by psi. So psi is of order P cross P, and this we force it to be a diagonal matrix. Okay. So components of U are again uncorrelated with each other, but now they need not be scaled. So diagonal entries of psi need not be equal to 1. So we just say that variance of U is some diagonal matrix psi. Okay. So this is my orthogonal factor model. I do have couple more, one more constraint actually. So covariance between F and U, if I want to compute. Covariance between F and U, expectation of U also we will take to be 0. So we will have specific factors as well as common factors to be centered. So covariance would simply be expectation of Fu prime. This we take as a 0 matrix. Okay. Fu prime means order of F is P cross 1, F is K cross 1, U is 1 cross P. So this is a 0 matrix of order K cross P. Is it okay? So this is actually an orthogonal factor model where we are trying to express the observed variables X as some function of or some transformation of some common factors, and whatever cannot be expressed by these common factors is taken care of by the specific factors which are denoted by U. And then we have these constraints that the common factors should be centered, scaled, and uncorrelated with each other. Then specific factors should also be centered. They should also be uncorrelated with each other, but they need not be scaled. And covariance between common factors and specific factors should be 0. Is it okay so far? Everyone with me so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is actually the orthogonal factor model, and we are going to then see how to get Q, how to get F, how to get U or psi, etc. Okay. By the way, these F and U are unobservable. In fact, we discussed at length that these F common factors are actually latent factors. Those are the variables in which we are interested, but we can't count them, we can't measure them, we can't observe them. Hence, we observe X, which are dependent on them. Okay. So now, let us try to write a part of this equation, a single component of this. Let me again write this. X is QF plus U plus mu. So X is of order P cross 1, Q is of order P cross K, K cross 1, then U is U is also P cross 1, and mu is also of course P cross 1 because mu is anyway mean. Okay. Okay, so let me write in the expanded form. So X is X1, X2, XP. Okay. Q is Q11, Q12 up to Q1K, Q21, Q22 up to Q2K, and QP1, QT2, PK. Then F is F1, F2, FK. U is U1, U2, UP, and mu is mu1, mu2, mu p. One small point, if we have descriptive exam, please make sure your handwriting is clear enough to distinguish between U and mu, because many people, especially those who write cursive, they have habit of writing U with this type of line. So U and mu become almost similar. So please don't do that, okay? I am not the type of person who gives benefit of doubt. I will say, okay, for me it looks like mu, then I would consider it as mu, even if you wanted it to be U. Okay. Okay. Now let me take just x1. So if I write x1, how does it come from this side? So this would be first row of q into this f vector plus u1 plus mu1. So x1 would be q11 f1 plus q12 f2 plus q1k fk plus u1 plus mu1. Correct? This would be equation for x1. I'm just picking up one component from this matrix equation. So if I want to write it in a slightly summarized notation, this would be q1 j fj, j goes from 1 to k plus u1 plus mu1. Okay so far? So in general, xi would be sum over j going from 1 to k, q ij, okay, ith row of q, plus ui plus mu I. Okay, this equation is important because this tells me why we have given those initial names that we mentioned. Okay, so here, now see, I am talking about only ith variable. I am not talking about all variables. When I am talking about ith variable, only ith specific factor comes into picture. Correct? But here j is there and j goes from 1 to k, means all common factors come into picture. Okay. Even if I'm talking about a single variable, only ith variable, still all common factors come into picture because there is sum over fj, j going from 1 to k, but only ith specific factor comes into picture. In fact, that's why the names are common factor and specific factor. Okay. Fj's, every fj has some role in every xi. Let me repeat. Every fj has some role in every xi, and hence fj's are called as common factors because they are common to all xi's. Whereas u1 has a role only in x1, u2 has a role only in x2, and so on. Hence, the vector of u is called as vector of specific factors because they contribute only in variable. Is it okay? Is there any doubt? I heard someone unmuting their mic. Okay. Okay. So, fine. I have this. Okay. Now, this should give you a clear idea of how factor analysis model works mathematically. This should also tell you why we call these as loadings. I told you that we would call the Q matrix as loading matrix, and these individual entries are called as loadings. Why? Because now Qij tells me what is the role or how much, not what exactly, but how much is the role of Fj in Xi. Okay. So Qij kind of gives me what is the importance of Fj in Xi. Is it high? Is it low? Etc. Hence it is called as loading. How much importance or how much weight does a jth common factor have in ith observed variable. Is it okay? So these are the reasons that we have given these names: specific factors, common factors, and loadings. It's absolutely essential that you understand these notations. So is everyone okay with these notations? Can we go ahead?
Ma'am,
Yes.
hello ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am, what we have claimed is f bar gives latent variables, right?
correct.
So how do we load those variables now, since those variables won't be available with us?
Those variables won't be available with us, but we are now, that part we are yet to do. We are going to estimate all these things. We are going to estimate Qs, we are going to estimate F, we are going to estimate variances of U's using our statistical theory. Okay, there are different ways in which one can have some guesses about values of Q and values of F. We will see those in the next lectures, or maybe if time
Yes, ma'am.
permits we can start today also. But yes, that is where statistics comes into picture. So right now we are just
Okay, ma'am.
defining the model that this is what we want. We want to explore relationship between unobserved and observed things. Any other doubt?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So now what we know is sigma matrix is variance covariance matrix of X. I can write it as expectation of X minus mu into X minus mu whole prime. Correct. And what is X minus mu as per my orthogonal factor model? As per my orthogonal factor model, X minus mu would be QF plus U. So let me write that. So I will have expectation of QF plus U into QF plus U prime. Okay. So this I would write as QF plus U into QF prime, QF whole prime plus. So this is Q. Okay, this is QF plus U, QF whole prime with F prime, Q prime plus U prime. Okay. And this is expectation of, let me do the product. So Q F F prime Q prime plus Q F U prime plus U F prime Q prime plus U prime. So Q we know is a matrix of constants. F factors are random and U, F common factors are random and U the specific factors are random. But the matrix Q is like parameters of this model. So matrix Q is a matrix of constants. So let me take it outside the expectation. See, remember here we are using all the rules of expectation that we derived either in the first week or in the first question bank. Okay, like which things can be kept outside, etc. And before proceeding further, it is always a good practice to check whether we have done the right thing by checking the orders. So order of Q is P cross K. So P cross K cross 1, 1 cross K, and K cross P. So this entire thing would be of order P cross P. Similarly here, P cross K cross 1, and 1 cross P. So again P cross P. Okay. So everything is of order P cross P. That should be the case because you can't add matrices if their dimensions are different. Okay, so now this becomes Q expectation of FF prime Q prime plus Q expectation of FU prime plus expectation of uf prime q prime plus uu prime. Okay. Okay. Now, so what we are saying is, let me just summarize what we have done so far. So sigma we have written as q expected ff prime q prime plus q expected fu prime plus expected uf prime q prime plus expected uu prime. Okay, what can I say about expectation of ff prime? Do I know something about expectation of ff prime using my assumptions of orthogonal factor model? Okay, you may not be writing. I don't know how many of you actually write along with the class. Probably no one. So let me bring the assumptions in front of you. So these are my assumptions. Using these, can I say something about expectation of ff prime? We cannot say anything about expectation of ff prime. Are you awake? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I was wondering if I'm going. Sorry?
Is it the variance coverage matrix?
Yes, because I see what would be variance of f? Variance of f would be expectation of f minus expected f into f minus expected f whole prime. But our assumption says expectation of f is 0. So this is simply expectation of ff prime. So it should be identity matrix because our assumption again says that variance covariance matrix of f should be I. Okay. So this would be q I q prime plus q. What can I say about expectation of fu prime? Expectation of fu prime is 0. Hello. Please wake up. So expectation of fu prime is a 0 matrix.
Yes, ma'am.
Expectation of uf prime would be transpose of expectation of fu prime. So it would again be a 0 matrix, but transpose of this 0 matrix q prime. And expectation of uu prime would again be variance of u. Okay, so this would be q prime plus 0 0. Variance of u is psi. So what we have, I'm sorry, yeah. So what we have now is the sigma matrix is actually q prime plus psi. This is a relationship between sigma, q and psi in an orthogonal factor model. Okay. Is everyone following whatever is happening? Does anyone have any doubt? assuming that there is no doubt, let me go ahead. So now we have another equation in the form of a matrix. So let me write these matrices. So sigma matrix is sigma 1 1, sigma 1 2, sigma 1 p, sigma 2 1, sigma 2 2, sigma 2 p, sigma p 1, sigma p 2, sigma pp. Q matrix is Q11, Q12, Q1k, Q21, Q22, Q2k, QP1, QP2, QPK. Q prime would be Q11, Q12, Q1k, Q21, Q22, Q2k, QP1, QP2, QPK, plus psi is a diagonal matrix, so I would have psi 1 1, psi pp, and all the other entries as 0. Okay. So the same matrix equation I am just writing in the form of actual matrices. Now let me pick, say, sigma 2 2. Okay, so sigma 2 2. How does sigma 2 2 look like? I mean, how would I express sigma 2 2? So sigma 2 2 is going to come from which entries from here? Okay, maybe I will.
R2 into C2 of this second row and second column of the two matrices, the product.
Okay, maybe I will write one more step. I'm not sure. I mean, I am having a feeling that I'm going too slow, and that is probably putting all of you to sleep. But I don't want to assume that unless you specifically tell me that I'm going too slow. So am I going too slow? Is that why everyone is asleep? You know, because
No,
things
ma'am. The speed is okay.
Okay. Okay, so let me write this product. So I have first row, first column here. So Q11, and now because you know it is transposed, basically it will be Q11 square, Q12 square up to Q1k square. Okay. So I can write it as sum over Q1j square, j going from 1 to k. Am I right? Q11 square, Q12 square up to Q1k square. Then I will have some other entries here. I'm not worried about them right now. When I go for second entry here, it would be second row and second column. So I would have sum over Q2j square, j going from 1 to k. Similarly, I will have sum over QPJ square, j going from 1 to k, plus psi matrix is there as it is, psi 1 1, psi 2 2, psi pp, and everything else is 0 0 0, 0 0 0. Okay. 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 So now let me pick any arbitrary sigma I. So sigma I diagonal entry would be sum over Q I j square, j goes from 1 to k, plus psi I. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So this equation is also very much important. This sum over j going from 1 to k, qij square, is basically sum of squares of entries in ith row of the loading matrix. Okay, let me repeat. This is sum of squares of entries in the ith row of loading matrix. So we will call it as hi square, I because it is specific to ith row. And because it is sum of squares, it is never going to be negative. To indicate that, I will call this as hi square. So I'm just denoting this term by hi square. Okay, and sigma I is here. And now we have some names for these quantities. So this hi square is known as communality. Okay, hi square is known as communality, and this is known as specific variance. Let me go back to the matrix form of the equation, the relationship between Q and sigma. See, this is also an important equation. So here we expressed sigma as some function of loading matrix plus some function of the variance covariance matrix of the specific factors. And now we are having this equation, which is also important. So what we are doing is, this sigma I we know is variance of xi. So variation in the ith variable, we are dividing it into two components. Okay. First component is communality. So first component is kind of like variation expressed or explained by the common factors. Okay. Variance of xi, the first component is variation explained by the common factors because it comes from the loadings of the common factors. And the second part is actually variation explained by the specific factor. Okay. Variation explained by the specific factor. Now, see, so we are saying that the total variation can be divided into two parts: variation explained by the common factors and variation explained by the specific factor, because there is only one factor for every variable. And ideally, we want a model for which most of the variation in xi is explained by the common factors. Okay. Because I said this is kind of like variance of error term. So we want it to be low. We want the error to be low. Hence, we try to get a model where communalities of individual variables should be as high as possible. Okay. Of course, there are other constraints we will see later. But in general, we would like, if suppose we are given two models, then we should try to choose that model which has higher values of communalities for all the variables. Okay, almost all the variables. In fact, using this, we can define something called as percentage or proportion, or maybe let me write in terms of proportion. You can convert it to percentage later. So, proportion of variation explained by the orthogonal, let me change slightly, proportion of variation in ith variable, ith observed variable explained by the orthogonal factor model, is hi square upon sigma I. Okay. Proportion of variation in ith variable explained by the orthogonal factor model is hi square upon sigma I. If you want percentage, you can multiply it by 100. So ideally, you would like this value to be high for all the variables. Remember, I'm talking about ith variable only currently. Okay, but of course, this is true for every I, so we can compute proportion of variation in ith variable explained by orthogonal factor model by this formula if we know Q matrix, because we need Qij's to get Hi square. Okay. Okay, so any doubt?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, what we have stated in our lecture today is variance of x equals to sigma, right? Now, on the same case, variance of x minus mu would also have been sigma.
Correct.
So instead of solving this complete expectation and everything, we already had an equation x minus mu equals to qf plus u. So directly taking a variance of x minus u would have led to the direct equation that we have solved right now.
Correct. So that is another way of doing the same thing.
Okay, so both works, right?
Yes, yes, both work.
Okay.
In fact, I don't know whether you noticed, but that's how I first got this equation sigma equal to qq prime plus u. I used that fact that x minus u is qf plus u. And that's how I reached sigma equal to qq prime plus psi.
Yes, ma'am. But the steps would have reduced for the proof itself.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I like to give one version here so that you can figure out other versions. And another reason that I wrote is the matrix relationship is also important. It's not that I want just the variance of the individual component. The matrix relationship sigma equal to qq prime plus psi, that is also important. So we wanted to derive that first. So I went from there. And because now anyway we have that, I use that matrix version to get diagonal elements from both the sides of the matrix equation. And I have increased number of steps here deliberately because you guys were not speaking at all. So I was not clear whether you are understanding anything at all. Otherwise, many steps could be reduced because if you are comfortable with matrix multiplication. I mean, many steps could be skipped. But I don't want to skip because no one was talking. So I wanted to make sure that I dilute things down as far as possible.
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, that's why I asked, am I going too slow? Because I was getting this feeling that I'm explaining unnecessarily.
No, ma'am. The after the product of matrices in the expectation form, those were, I think, those were necessary. But apart from that, yes, the steps could have been reduced there.
Anything else? Any other doubt? Let me stop here. Thank you.